Hi, and welcome to the Yes You May podcast with your host, myself, Amanda Mae Gray, where we talk about confidence, giving yourself permission, and being successful in your own life so that you can live the life of your dreams. Today, we have a special guest on. His name is Glen Gould. He is a fellow speaker and a serial entrepreneur. So I am certain he is going to share all of the insight and wisdom as to how he has been successful betting on himself and not just having a normal corporate job. And no matter where you are in life, I'm sure you will have insight from that and gain from it as well. But first, we have to talk about how Glenn and I met. Mr. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Hey
Thank you for
there,
coming on.
Amanda. Thanks for having me. And this real treat for this one. I'm going to enjoy this very much.
Well, good. I'm glad. I have a funny feeling our little story is going to be the highlight to a lot of people because
Sure.
it's quite unique. So before I get to that, though, just tell us a little bit about what you speak on, your businesses, your background, and so the
Okay.
people who don't know you get to know you just a little bit more.
So I speak on small business, but in particular, I speak about how having a family-run business can bring you greater joy in your life and bring more independence for you and for your generations to come if you do it properly. So
That's important if you do it properly.
yeah. So I mean, I've been doing business with my family my entire life. I basically found out that I'm unemployable, and that's a good thing, really. I mean, there are people who are just unemployable, and every time I am employed, it just doesn't work out well for me. So I've found that the entrepreneur path is a little better.
I sometimes think I'm unemployable. 'Cause, like, I just wanna do my own thing, and then, I don't like doing the same thing all the time, and most jobs want you to do the same thing all the time, and that's boring. It's
It can
really
be
boring.
very boring, yeah. And the worst part is that most jobs they don't really want you to think very much. They just want you to execute. And so
Correct.
I kind of want to tinker, which gets me in trouble.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about family businesses because that's something that is common, but also slightly taboo, I feel like.
There are a lot of folks who believe that when you go into business, bringing the family into the business is dangerous, and it is. Believe me, it's hard to this whole work life balance thing you hear about. There is no such thing when it comes to a family business. You just don't have it, and so learning how to navigate that, learning how to have, hey, this is executive session time. This is not is a challenge. We're still working on it.
Yeah, and it probably bleeds over. Your conversations are frequently business even when you're on vacation or just at a dinner because you're all involved. I can see that
Yeah,
happening.
we have this thing in the morning we used to call coffee time, and we just call it fight time now. No, I'm just kidding. But it's where we everybody wakes up in the morning together and we sit down, we have a cup of coffee, and we try to talk about what's going on in our personal lives. But when you're in business with your family, a lot of times your personal life is your business life.
Fair, that's fair. And how many family members are in your business world?
So in our business, it's my wife and my two sons who are grown. They're 30 and 29, Grant and Carson. And so it's a full. They've been involved since I guess since they were in their late teens.
Wow. Wow. So you're all into it for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's and they wanted to get into it.
They did actually.
Yeah.
When we decided that we would build this business, going back to that thing about not being employable, I was the director of small to mid-sized business at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and one day they decided to invite me to be successful somewhere else. And so when they did, I went home and we said, "What are we going to do with the rest of our lives?" My sons both had a Florida prepaid college program, and they cashed them in and invested in the business from the very beginning.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well,
I think
you
it's
didn't
cool.
tell us what the business is that you all do. I feel
So
like
in
we
this
should know.
particular family business, we own a dry cleaning pickup and delivery service that's also morphed into a plant. We're the largest pickup and delivery service on the south side of Atlanta, serving about 3 counties.
Which is very cool. You got a lot of people involved in that for sure. Oh, you probably had a hit during COVID too then.
We had a hit during COVID, no doubt, but one of the nice things is that the clientele that we target was, I wouldn't say insulated, but not impacted like most people were. The clientele that we target is generally speaking upscale, um, people that have a whole a whole lot of um, extra income, if you will, not necessarily dependent upon a 9 to 5 job where they went into Atlanta. They may go into Atlanta, but they're probably the CEO of the company, or even like you are, where you're able to work anywhere.
Yeah, well, working anywhere definitely makes a difference for that, and I think that's really a growing trend, but, if you need something dry cleaned, there's no other way to do it. Like,
That's true.
especially if it's worth something, you surely don't wanna try to do something yourself and mess it up. You do that one time, and then you're like, "Okay, never mind, I'm not."
Yeah. We see a few pieces a week that come in that somebody tried to do their own thing, and they think that we can save it, and sometimes you can, but a lot of times
Yeah,
you can't.
it depends on what they did, depends on the fabric, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of variables there
No doubt.
that do you have, like, other businesses that use you
Oh
on a
yeah,
regular.
absolutely. Yeah, we kind of target three sectors. The home pickup and delivery for upscale neighborhoods is probably our biggest, but we have a hospitality part and a medical
Yeah.
part. So we deal with City of Hope is one of our largest clients. We do all of their lab coats. We have Noonan Center where we do all the linens and tablecloths, things like that for events. We have some other medical folks that we deal with, dentist office, doctor's offices, and then we have a couple of warehouses where we do uniforms.
That makes sense. So that also helped
Yeah.
during COVID because, like,
Oh yeah, no doubt.
medical people, they were still full force, unlike
Yeah,
the
they
rest.
were. Yeah, it was kind of interesting because we go into the building, and during that period, we had to have all sorts of safeguards and things that
Sure.
we had to do to still be able to go in and make our trip through the entire building to pick up things. So
All the touch points you could it's funny how that experience really highlighted for all of us how much we touch.
yeah,
And
no kidding.
like, you don't think about it from day to day. You're like,
And
"Oh,
I think we're all still a little scarred from it. I mean,
oh, for
still
sure."
to this day, every once in a while, I'll reach with my shirt to open a doorknob or something, just because that's what we were doing at the time. So,
Yep.
but I
Yeah,
will
I can
say this: I
relate.
don't have a whole lot of I used to have like 60 gallons of hand sanitizer on hand at any time, but when it all ended, people quit buying it pretty quick. So,
Oh, because you
just
were
like your
selling
local
it.
stores, they were giving it away. We were giving it away too. So,
That makes sense. I still have I don't one on our half bath sink.
yeah.
I don't know what to do with it, so I put it there because I saw in other bathrooms there was hand sanitizer and soap, and once in a while, somebody's like, "I don't know why you have both in your bathroom." I'm like, "I don't know what to do with it," so there it sits.
Yeah,
And
so
if
I'll
you
tell you
wanna do both,
something interesting
whatever.
about that is that when it was going down, I had this idea that every home was going to end up having a hand sanitizer station in their home. As you walked out the front door, you're going to hit the hand sanitizer. Walking in, hit the hand sanitizer, and I was going to market to all the homes. I'm glad I didn't because I think that would have been one of those things that was short lived, like real short lived.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
once
was
in a while.
convinced.
Yeah, I mean, we were all convinced it was gonna last longer and, like, we weren't gonna as quickly go back to being as comfortable in person and shaking hands and hugging, but I feel like it faded faster than most people anticipated.
Oh,
Ooh, that was
without
a
a doubt.
combo.
Yeah.
Faded faster than anticipated. Well, that's cool though, and how did you get into that business? What
Well,
was like
it's the dry cleaning business
that's
kind of
unique.
it was kind of by mistake. My brother and I, we used to have contract cleaning grocery store
Mhm.
and retail store floors, and so we had 168 Kmart's and 50 Walmart supercenters. We did Albertsons, we did Kroger, we did Publix, and just like anything else, some of those things came and went. Uh, you
Sure.
know, when you lost a client, you lost a lot of revenue,
A lot
and
of
we
yeah, a
were
lot of business.
we were rolled up in a Wall Street roll up of facility maintenance companies, and given 2 years to kind of figure out what we wanted to do with our lives. So my brother and I moved to Florida, and we just thought we'd kind of semi-retire, and we bought a laundromat. And you quickly find out that there's not enough quarters on the planet to feed two families. So we bought another laundromat. And then after that, we decided that we would have dry cleaning, pickup, and delivery. There was a little period there where we started a business that was kind of a tribute to our mother. My mother loved to iron everything. And so,
Oh,
I mean, right down to
that
the
was a
underwear,
big
she'd iron
thing.
it all. Socks, she
Yeah.
didn't care. She loved ironing. And so we started a company called the Laundry Lady that was basically to do ironing. And then we kind of morphed into pickup and delivery of dry cleaning. And then we ended up buying a dry cleaning plant, which is a great story in itself. And then my brother and I decided to go separate ways. I went into the chamber world. And then when the Metro Atlanta Chamber invited me to find success somewhere else, we said, what are we going to do? And the one thing we knew we could do is do pickup and delivery of dry cleaning. So that's how we started back up.
Fascinating.
Long
Fascinating.
story to a short answer.
Yeah, well, no, it's interesting, though. It's always interesting just to hear how people end up where they are. I think because in our heads, like, it must have been linear, it must have been this, or, like, you don't realize how the road always snakes around for everybody, but it all ties together. Like, you think you're doing this I talk about this all the time. Like, you think you're doing this random offshoot thing, and you don't know how it's gonna connect, but things always come back together and find their way. Which I think is makes life a lot more interesting than
Oh,
just a
without
straight
a doubt.
anyways, wouldn't that be boring? I mean, some people need the straight line, and it's good for them, but that would be boring for somebody like us.
It's odd you asked that because in my networking group this morning, I started my self intro with, I at 18, I knew I wanted to be a dry cleaner. And nobody wants to be unless they grew up in the dry cleaning business, and most of those
Right.
don't want to be in it either. So yeah,
Well, that's
it's
why I was surprised your sons were like, "Yeah, let's get into this," because
it was an
especially
investment in their mind.
nowadays.
It wasn't I don't want to do this work. It was I'm going to invest in this business with the idea that we're going to build it for 5, 10, 15 years and then sell it. They've always been
Well,
kind of that forward minded.
that's not common either, right? Like,
Oh,
it's becoming less and less you're supposed to do stuff. And especially because 'cause I'm not too far off from them, but our generation was very pushed into, "You go to college, you get this degree, you're not supposed to do, the business, you're not supposed to do what your parents did, you're supposed to push beyond," and it first of all, that's a whole lot of trash, I'll say.
yeah,
It's really not great advice because it's not right for everybody. It might be right for some, but it's really not right for everybody, and,
sure.
I'm just impressed that they had that wherewithal and gung ho to be like, "Yeah, let's do something outside the box or really more inside the box as
Yeah.
far as what it used to be," which is great. But how did you get to speaking? Talk about that.
So the way I got to speaking, I was a long time ago. When I was a golf professional, I taught golf at country clubs throughout the country,
Oh,
and
well,
then oddly enough, I was working at this country club where I was invited to be successful somewhere else, and it's an ongoing theme. And so I ended up getting a job as a regional sales manager for a company called Slazenger that was being reintroduced to the United States at the time. So there were 9 of us that were a part of this reintroduction of this brand. I was traveling in between El Paso and Van Horn on I-10,
oh, wow.
which is a very lonely road if you've ever been
Yeah,
on it. This
anything
was
on
during
I-10 is lonely.
this was during Jimmy Carter's administration, so we were driving 55 miles an hour. It was brutal. But one of the things that the guy that hired me said was, if you have a choice, you can either have bubble gum for your brain, listen to music, or you can have a university on wheels. And he introduced me to Brian Tracy, and from Brian Tracy, I
Okay,
was introduced to Earl Nightingale, and not personally, but through audio tapes. So
fortunately
I was
not
driving
person.
between Van Horn and El Paso. Earl Nightingale's on, and he tells the strangest secret, which is we become what we think about. And what happened to me in that moment was I don't know how or why or where, but I want to make people feel the way he just made me feel.
Yep.
And so I started looking into speaking, and obviously I joined Toastmasters. And a friend of mine and I started up a little speaking business where we were doing training programs throughout the country for chambers of commerce. That's kind of how we ended up in the chamber of commerce world,
Mhm.
and that's how I ended up being interested in speaking. It was very simply that feeling that I had that said, "Gosh, I want to make people feel that way," because it was the most unbelievable experience of my life. If you've never listened to The Strangest Secret, and people think you can buy it in a book. You can't. It wasn't. It was never a book.
No,
But if you haven't listened to The Strangest Secret, you can find it on on the internet on Google. You listen to it, hear
it's
it.
probably on YouTube.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's part
Yes.
interesting. Yeah,
Who
interesting little
was,
story. I finally hooked up with Earl Nightingale's widow, and of course she's furious that all of his stuff has been pirated all over the internet. But and rightfully so. It was kind of something that she should have been able to benefit from when he passed. But yeah, without a doubt, Strangest Secret or anything Earl Nightingale has to say. He's been gone a long time. He's been gone almost 40 years now. But
yeah,
powerful.
very powerful. Him, Les Brown is very powerful, Brian Tracy, very powerful. They're kinda like the titans that when you hear them, they just move you, and that's where a lot of what people don't realize is a lot of the preachers that have adopted that kinda style, that's where they got it from, was these motivational speakers. It wasn't just preaching, they found that style from them and studied it and have made megachurches, but that's another story.
There you go. I might have one of those big mega church preachers as one of my clients.
Oh,
I
that's
might.
cool. Might,
No,
maybe.
I do, but I can't say who it is, obviously. But, if I said the
I
name, you'd
think it's
know.
cool. Gotcha. Well, mom is the word. But I agree. That's kinda how I always felt like those tapes, those motivational speakers, like, ah, man, I wanna help people and keep moving that forward. Unfortunately, the speaking world kinda went away from that for a while, but I think we're coming back to some of that with your tangible takeaways, and some entertainment. So it's
Right.
like a real hybrid nowadays. Like, you can't just motivate, you have to also have things that people can actually do, which I get and I think is important as well for sure. Which brings me to, you and I met at NSA, the National Speakers Acad or not Academy, Association.
Right.
Nobody yell at me for that one.
Yeah.
I'm just
Not
getting
that
out.
you're involved or anything.
Not that I'm involved,
Yeah.
or have been for a minute.
Right.
The National Speakers Association Georgia chapter is where
Mhm.
you and I met.
We did.
We did, and somebody you I'll let you tell your side of the story.
Okay.
Why did you meet me specifically?
So, all right. So we're both attending this event. We don't know each other. I'm
Not
trying
yet.
my best to get out of there. And the world's greatest networker is a guy named Michael Moore, not the movie guy, but a guy here in Atlanta. Michael's just a real gem. He really is. And I've
Yeah.
known him for years. He was a big part of helping me at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And so Michael's talking to you. And as I'm trying to get out of there, he goes, Glenn, get over here. And of course, if Michael says get over here, I'm going to do that.
You just
He goes, meet Amanda Mae. And so I meet you, and we get to doing the small talk that people do. And since it's a
yep,
business environment, I do the typical business question. Yeah, what do you speak on? Yeah, where are you from? And you said, well, and I recall it being I'm recently from Florida, but originally from Massachusetts. I said, well, that's weird. I'm from Florida and from Massachusetts. Where are you from in Massachusetts? Oh, you wouldn't know it. It's this little town called Rowley. Well, that's kind of odd. I grew up in Rowley. See, you said no, no. It's, yeah, I'll prove it to you. You know the jewel mill, and the jewel mill. If you're standing in front of the jewel mill, to the left is a dirt road. You go up to the end of that road, and that was my house. And you just froze. And you said, that was my house. And you and I lived in the exact same house in Rowley, Massachusetts, about 20 years apart. We didn't live together, but about 20 years apart. And it's the most bizarre thing I've ever had happen in my life. I've had really odd
coincidence?
serendipitous things happen.
Yeah,
But this one is just like the most unusual thing I've ever heard of.
it
And
takes
so yeah, so of course, I spent the next 3 weeks telling everybody I knew this story. It's like this is the strangest. And finally, I started going. You know what? I wonder if she was
there's no way.
punking me.
Right,
I
there's no
wonder.
way.
I was wondering if she was punking me because you. I mean, if you were good at it. And so it
I am an
was like,
actress, to be fair.
I know it's like 3 or 4 meetings later. We're just sitting in the meeting, and I'm sitting in front of you. Well, we haven't really talked very much, and I just start scrolling through my phone and I bring up a picture of that house because I'd been there in 2018 to show my kids where I grew up. And I just leaned it over my shoulder and I look back and you're going, so I knew it must be true.
That's my house, the Weller house,
That's
which is
right.
fun. We weren't there that long. We were there, I think, like, 4 years, so it wasn't even that long of a time that we were in the house. We moved from Main Street in Rowley, which was the main street, to
Yep.
that house, and then in 2000, we ended up moving to Maine. My dad's mom still lived up in Maine. He was originally from up there, so we ended up moving up that way, sold the house, made a good profit in Massachusetts, moving to Maine, and we're able to build a house,
Right.
which was great for us, although I will tell you, I got a lot of hate when I changed schools in middle school. Kids called me the rich from Mass, and I'm like, "We're not rich. We just sold a house. It was worth more than we bought, and then we built a house." Like, we're
Yeah.
blue
If you're not a
collar.
Mainer, you're not a Mainer.
You're not exactly yes, and I never no.
Yeah.
I to this day, I have one friend I still talk to from Maine, and that's it, and
But
that's it.
I've got cousins in Maine, and so of course when you said, I'm thinking, all right, well, if she's from Saco, this just thank goodness it wasn't quite that crazy. Like Poland Spring or something like
Cold
that, but
Springs, yep.
so we're a
That's
little
exactly what
southern,
it's
a
called.
little further south in Maine, but
Yep.
yeah, just the strangest thing that we have that in common.
It is strange, and it's such a unique property. It wasn't one of those I think that's where, you know, so many houses, especially in the South, like, you're in a complex of neighborhoods, and it could have been we were in the same neighborhood, but, like, the houses are all very similar. This is a very unique property that he and I both lived at because it was up this dirt road. It had this huge front lawn. I mean,
Yeah.
huge front lawn that had a whole baseball diamond at the front of it with a tree that you could, well, a great climbing tree, and then a creek down the back. And then there was a trail up behind the house. And the house also had an in law suite in the back that was separate technically. I think that's what they call it, right? In law suite.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
we rented it out as an apartment, but it's considered an in-law suite. And then the
I
trail
don't
went
think
up to
that
the
was
attached
there when we lived there. I don't think the
oh,
in-law
really?
suite was there. We had a little barn off to the left, if you're looking at the front of the house, off to the left of the driveway that I burned down playing with matches. So if they tell you don't play with matches, there's a reason. But yeah, I burned it down.
No.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I remember telling my mom, and she was like, "The Goulds." Yeah, that was a family name in Rowley, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay then." Because I had met like, when I first moved to Florida, I was in cell phone sales, and I had met people that knew my grandfather, which I thought was crazy because my grandfather, he completed, like, the 8th grade, he started his own business, he had an oil company in Lynn, Massachusetts, and it had a route between the areas, and so it was crazy that somebody knew him, but it wasn't that crazy because, everybody had to get oil up there.
Right. Yeah.
So the Patterson Oil Company wasn't that weird for somebody to it was still felt super weird. This this just takes the cake, and we met in Georgia, so let's clarify. Both grew up in Massachusetts in the same house, both eventually moved to Florida at some point, and then we both moved to Georgia at some point, and then met in Georgia because we're speaking and doing the one thing that most people find to be the most terrifying thing in the world.
Well, you pretty well nailed that.
And so here we are because every time we tell that story, people are like, "Hold on." Like, it's so funny. I love watching their faces because they're processing. They're like, "Hold on, the same house? Wait,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Wait, are y'all related? Or
Are you sure it was the same house?"
yeah,
Yes, we're very sure it was the same house. It's
absolutely.
very
Yeah.
specific house.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's no behind the mill, like, there are so many houses that maybe it could have been no, no. There's weird property, and you said it's changed. I mean, there was a lot of add-ons. There was a big front
Yeah.
deck on it. It had, like, a breezeway that was an add-on that got from the house to the garage. My dad had his business in the garage. I remember walking down that driveway no matter the weather to get to the school
That's
bus.
right. Because the bus wasn't coming up. Nowadays, I guess the bus will probably come up, but back then it
Not
wouldn't.
necessarily. Maybe. I don't know. In Massachusetts, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like in our neighborhood, the bus just stops at one spot. The kids gotta walk to that spot regardless.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Well, it's time efficient, right? Like, you gotta be time efficient, but
Yeah,
so that's our crazy how we know each other and are somehow related in a weird way.
that's right. It's awesome.
It is awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah.
Where are we at on time? Oh, we're good. Okay, we're good. We're good. I was like, "Oh, man, we're gonna jump ahead." Speaking of stories, I find that stories are one of the things that people know are important but don't value. How do you use stories and how do you think stories are valuable to the everyday person, even not the speakers, although we do have quite a bit of speakers, of course, that tune in. Why do you think stories are so important, so valuable, and so important to really hone and tailor for your own brand and business?
Well, stories are, I mean, basically the way we communicate. We've communicated since we've, been able to communicate. We've communicated through story, and so it's the natural state for humans to interact. If you are good at telling stories, then you're able to communicate things that you want people to know about you. And you specifically said brand, about your brand that relates to them. So you're not really telling them your story so much as you're telling them their story and how you fit. And so story is just, the way that we communicate. Pretty much everything we do is through that story. Uh, but on a personal note, if people are listening here and maybe they don't think that they have a brand, everyone does, by the way. But if they don't think they do, one of the things that I would encourage people to know is that if you're nervous talking with people, the most natural thing to do is tell them a story, and you won't be nervous because it is something that's a part of you. And so that's how I try to encourage people to that don't want to speak or are a little nervous about being out in public. Just tell your story. It's very, very natural.
It is natural. It's actually the number one way the brain learns is through story. So I've heard through
That's right.
probably a story. But that's how our brain connects things is through the stories that we do tell. And that's why I think it's so interesting to listen to a podcast and to listen to somebody's origin story of how we got there so that we can better relate because so many people, myself included, always look at the success, look at the end game from somebody else and be like, I couldn't get there. I don't know how they did it. It must have been handed to them, blah, 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 fill in the blank of whatever.
Sure.
It could be me. I can't get there. Maybe someday. What would you say to one of those people that says maybe someday? How do you encourage them and get them to really push beyond themselves and go to that next level?
I think there's two things. I mean, first of all, everywhere you look, you can find evidence of someone who had it worse than you, didn't have the opportunity you had. There's always somebody that figured out a way to do what you want to do from a lesser station.
Mm.
There's always somebody that had a greater disadvantage. I immediately think of our friend Tyran Jackson,
Oh,
who,
yeah.
if you haven't looked, if you it's Tiran Jackson. Look him up, hear his story. If you need a little
Amazing.
encouragement, he's all about resilience. And to lose your wife and a leg and still come back and be an impact to the world. Um, if he can do it, anybody can. So that's the first thing. But there's also that, most of us, what happens is we think too much and too long. And if I just have this one more idea, if I get this one more training, if I do, and the truth is, we're already, for most of us, we're already exposed to everything we need to know. All we need to do is act. And the simple act of acting, if you act on a motivation, it's going to give you an experience that's going to give you some sort of education, that's going to give you some sort of confidence, that's going to give you some sort of ability to act. It's a big flywheel effect, if you will. And all you have to do is, and I love Tony Robbins' quote. I'm every you can like not like Tony Robbins, but the guys had been successful, and
He
he
knows how to
says,
speak.
when would now be a good time to do it? And it's I mean, it's just so perfect. He's the one who came up. I should all over myself too.
Yes.
But when would now be a good time to do it? Well, the answer is, of course, now. This Go ahead and start. So if you just take some action, you're going to build some confidence, and that's really what needs to happen.
I always say that you only fail if you fail to learn from something that didn't go the way you wanted it to. So it's not a true failure unless you don't take the time to reflect and see the lessons and build upon it and say, "Okay, I could do this different or that different." Otherwise, that's when you're failing, and
Yeah,
that's
well,
the only time
I
in my
want
mind.
to comment on that because you said something that stuck with me. I heard you on a
Mhm.
podcast with Darren LaCroix,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe I didn't hear you, but I heard him talking about it. And he said that what you said was is you can't see progress while you're doing it. And
Correct.
it was one of those things where it's like, God, that's obvious. I wonder why I didn't think of that. Right? It's obvious. It's like one of those little truths in life that somebody finally came up with, and thank you for it. That it's like we get so wrapped up in not seeing the result, and yet the result is most of us, if we're trying to get a result, we're trying to get an extended result. We're not trying to get today's result. And so if you add in the idea of just take some action, celebrate the result, but you can't see what it's doing in the long term. You certainly can't even see it when it's happening. So I think that's a great quote that you had.
It's kinda like the quote, "You can't read the label from inside the jar."
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of, and I think I came up with it because I was struggling on my own journey, and I was making a lot of progress, but I didn't see it because I wasn't to the big goal that I wanted, so I didn't see how far I had come, and it's a continual thing, right? Like, that's the interesting thing with life is you never really get there, right? Like, you never
Right.
fully you're always gonna keep learning, you're always gonna keep pushing, there's always gonna be that next milestone that I have to hit, but you don't realize in a moment while you are growing, while you are learning, that you are doing just that, growing and learning, unless you take the time to reflect and look back and say, "Oh, wow, look at how far I've come from." Like, I am so much further along than I give myself credit for, than other people give me credit for. I deserve to be here because I have done X, Y, and Z. That's actually one of my points in my confidence and first impression talk. It's be the part. Look at all that knowledge you have. Look at all that experience you have. Okay, maybe it's not more than the other person who has been doing this 10 years more than you, but it's a
Right.
lot more than where you started, and it's more than where other people are at in your journey as well. Or you just it's you got we take things for granted, right? Like, we don't realize the things that are easy to us are not easy to other people. Right? Like, to
That's
me,
true.
it's very easy to walk in a room of complete strangers and talk to anybody, walk up to anybody, like, make friends, sell something, because that has been my job for so long as a spokesmodel in sales, like, I didn't have a choice. I had to talk to everybody and anybody at any level, at any income, at any status, it didn't matter. I had to be able to talk to every single person I encountered, and that is something that you build the confidence in doing so, and I didn't know, like, at the beginning, was I great at it? Probably not, but I got better at it, and it's now I take it for granted until I realize, "Oh, other people don't know that." That's not that easy, Amanda. It just comes easy to you because you've trained at it, because you've worked at it, and every rep that I've done has helped increase that muscle of confidence. That's the thing I like to call I wanna know your definition, but I think confidence is more of a muscle than just like a shirt, right? You have to work on it. It's going to come and go. It's just like your legs, your arms. When you go to the gym, right, you can increase those muscles, but if you don't use them, they're not going to stay. So to me, confidence is like a muscle. What do you think? What would you consider confidence to be the definition of? Or
Well,
what's
I
the
mean,
definition?
I think that confidence is the result of experience.
Mm,
I think that there's a lot of people who have confidence in themselves, and it's kind of like this overwhelming self confidence, almost to the point of arrogance.
mhm.
And the difference is the one who's arrogant has never had the experience of what they're saying they're confident at. The one who is confident has had a lot of experience succeeding at it. And so, but confidence also, you can tell true confidence by is there enthusiasm for it afterwards? Am I
Mm,
excited about what I've done? I'm confident I could do it over and over and over again, and I just get more excited about it because I believe that I'm getting better and better and better all the time. So I agree with you that it's a muscle. It's something that has to be worked. You have to continue to work, and um, and I think that the evidence of it is enthusiasm for it.
I love that enthusiasm for it. I don't think I've heard that one before, but it makes sense. Like, if you're not excited, if you're not continuing on, then you're not confident, or you might be taking it for granted. And I think sometimes we have to realize and find that enthusiasm again,
Oh, without a doubt. Without a
because it
doubt.
becomes every day. When it's too commonplace for us,
Yeah,
you
to
know.
that point and to a point you made earlier about how you never success never really ends because Earl Nightingale said success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. So if you feel confident and you don't actually move along the spectrum to challenge yourself to feel confident at a different level, well then you're really a failure. You
Mm,
you have to continue on. The saddest thing is to see somebody with talent and experience and the ability who just doesn't like it and doesn't want to do it and doesn't want to share it with anybody else so they can do it. That's sad to me.
how do you push past that? How, because we've all been in that spot where, we're frustrated or we're over it or, just down on ourselves because of other circumstances or whatever. How, when you get in that moment of, I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm not good enough, or whatever it may be, how do you push past? What do you do to keep moving yourself forward, to reignite yourself, let's say?
So one of the things that and it's there's a couple of things. First of all, because I mean, like for example, right now I'm incredibly frustrated in several aspects of my business life, if you will. There's a lot of things that can easily make you frustrated when you employ people. There's a lot of things that can easily make you frustrated when you're wrapped up in this dry cleaning thing and you want to be out speaking and you want to build that business too. And there's a lot to it. So one thing is that you have to have people that you trust, that you can leverage, that can work you through things when you start to say things that really don't make any sense, because it's really easy to get down on yourself. Uh, One of the other things that I think, though, this came to me, um, I guess, in what I would call prayer time, but there's a term that has always been there, but has taken on a whole lot of significance lately. A lot of people are using it, and that is the imposter syndrome. That well, I'm just I'm not really that good. I'm just an imposter. In the golf world, when I used to teach golf, if you were to ask somebody who's a great player, today they'd probably say Tiger Woods or
Yep.
one of the others that's popular right now. I don't even follow golf that much anymore, but people would certainly say Tiger Woods is one of the greatest players. Okay, if you say who's a great teacher,
Mm,
the fact is you don't know, and there are so many people who are great at teaching the game that are not great players. They're good, don't get me wrong, but there's something different for the player. The person who actually plays the game, they need somebody to be behind them and beside them going, no, try this because you've gotten off track here, you've gotten off track there. And I guess coaching is what I'm talking about. But there's the saying in the golf industry, and when I told my son this the other day, he hated the term, but it's those who can play, and those who can't teach. But it's not demeaning to the teacher. What they're trying to say is that there are people who understand everything you should do. And for some reason, they just can't quite execute it the way that they know it should be done. And maybe
right.
it's the curse of knowledge. I mean, so you have to have those people in your life who can walk you along, but you also have to remember that if you think that if you're an imposter, no, actually you may be the perfect messenger. It's
Mm.
just because you're not playing at the level that you think the greatest plays at doesn't mean you don't have the ability to be the greatest who helps other people play at
Ooh, that's good. I like that a lot. I always think of it like when you're trying to do it all on your own, it's overwhelming. There's so many tasks, and I've always been a very independent person,
it. Right.
Miss Independent for sure. Always, my parents would tell you that, "Oh, she's gotta do it herself." She always wanted to do it herself. Like, that was my catchphrase as a kid. I'm gonna do it myself. Figure it out. But that's where the greatest opportunity for somebody like me is getting that help from other people. because you're not going to know it all. You're going to have blinders. You haven't been exposed to everything. Everybody is exposed to different things. And that's where community is also really important in that. And I've definitely bought into this since joining the speaking world is
Mm,
finding a community without whatever you're doing it. But like obviously not everybody that's going to listen to this is a speaker. Of course not. But find other people that are doing the things you're interested in, even if that's a hobby. I have a good friend who is a marathon runner. He's got other marathon runner friends, right? And they all do it together and they all support each other because they understand the goal, the drive, the interest. So you really got to find the other people to share that experience with you, whether it's business, a hobby, whatever it might be. And they're going to continue to motivate you, push you forward, expose you to different ideas, different perspectives, point out your blind sides. Because even though you might know all the things, it's not easy to see your blind spots. It's not easy to look at your own self and not overthink and not get bogged down in the BS details that nobody but you cares about, right? I always
right.
tell my stepdaughter, I'm like, "You're the only person who notices that. Nobody else is thinking about that but you." And I know it's easier to say that than to go with it, but it's also important to understand it. So I'm great at looking at somebody else's talents or ideas and translating that into something easy. Am I good with myself? Absolutely not. It has taken me
That's the way it
forever.
is for most
No,
of us.
exactly. I'm like,
Yeah,
"What do I talk about? I don't
exactly.
know. What am I good at? I don't know." Like, it's a process for sure, and you have to have that community and that support, whether it's coaching, whether it's a mentor, or just the community of like-minded people, which is why associations are so powerful, which is why networking with like-minded groups is so powerful, or even people in the same area as you is so powerful,
Yeah.
just to get that push to keep going. Because especially in today's world, it is way too easy to pick up this phone and scroll endlessly and get nothing done and feel terrible about yourself at the end of it because you didn't know what to do and you were overwhelmed with everything in the first place.
Well, you nailed that. That's for sure. Yeah, and
I
the
do it.
association and being around a group of people. Um, I tell people that I coach in how to be a better member in a chamber of commerce. The most valuable thing of being a member of a chamber of commerce is you're exposed to people that are better than you. You're exposed to people that have ideas that you'll never have. And you are exposed to people who are in different industries where they are doing things that nobody in your industry has thought of. And you can
Right.
take one simple idea from another industry and go, oh, wait a second. But here's the last thing, you'll also be exposed to people who aren't quite as good as you.
Mm.
And when you come to that realization, then you can go back to the idea of confidence and go, you know what? Okay, yeah, it's easy to beat me up. Believe me, I'm the biggest dummy I've ever known. But at the end of the day, I have moved from there, you know, and I'm going to help them move to here. And you know what? I'm going
Yep.
to listen to this lady over here, and I'm going to learn how to move to there. And so, especially in business, if you own your own business or if you're in a corporate environment, they say you're the sum of five people you hang around the most. Well, I've got three people in my family, so I've only got two more people that I can hang around the most because there's three of them, and I'm always accounting myself. I'm so really there's only one, right? I need to get out into the world and get around people that have gone where I want to go and that have experienced where I want to experience. I tell a real quick story. Went to the first board dinner that I was able to go to with NSA. And when I went home, my family asked me how it was. I said, you know what? I'm just out of place. I said, we're sitting
Oh.
there, and the first one says, well, I was walking down the street of Dubai. And then the second one says, it's kind of like what it was when I was in England. And, and all these life experiences. And I'm going, I went to Grantville. You know, I mean, and you can instant now, if I were to step back and go, you know what? I've traveled quite a bit myself. I've been to places but it was like, I don't belong here
Mhm.
until I realized that I definitely belong there because I have something to offer, first of all, but more importantly, I have something to gain. And you gotta get around people that have been where you want to go. I can't say that enough.
I think that's super important, and it's also super important to share what you are good at because it is so powerful to then give that the information that you do have and that you do know back to other people because then they'll reciprocate, and it's just a give and take, right? There's no point you're never gonna get everywhere by yourself. You're just not. I
Right.
all the fitness athletes, you look at any of them, they all have multiple coaches,
Bingo.
multiple personal trainers. They have, nutritionists,
Nutritionists.
cooks. Yes, like, they have so much, and, we probably don't give enough credit to the wives or and girlfriends of these professional athletes who are holding down the home and doing all the things and supporting them and telling them they're great, right? There are so many people around you. It's so important to also then give back. And even though you're not where you wanna be, you're still further ahead somewhere in something that you might think is unrelated than other people are. Like, I
Yeah.
know a lot about doing a podcast. I know a lot about making a YouTube channel, putting out content. Like, I don't think I'm some expert at it all, but I know because of experience, because people have come ask me and been like, "Man, how do I do this?" That I know more than most people that I encounter, and therefore it's important to just freely share that information. And that's the beauty
Without
of when you join a group and people like you, they're just gonna freely share that information that you might pay thousands to go to an expert on and learn from anyways. So you're gonna
a
gain
doubt.
a lot giving and receiving, I think.
Without a
So
doubt.
without a doubt. And on that note,
Mm.
so to summarize, get in a community, reflect on yourself, learn from your mistakes, take chances, get outside your house. I don't we didn't technically say that, but that's what we're technically saying, right?
Sure.
That's something that I've been working on more. I'm like, okay, once a week I need to at least go to some networking something with someone, just get out of the house and go meet some new people or whatever, some other old people that I love and will reinvigorate. Um, but I think that's important. And I think that's really important post COVID.
Oh,
Get
without a
outside of your
doubt. Yeah, it's
if you're
COVID
feeling
really
stuck,
kind of pinned everybody back into their homes, and a lot of people haven't gotten out. It's very easy to operate many businesses from a screen.
it's funny because I have a really good friend and she and I were talking about how we didn't feel, the motivation to get up and get ready every day like we used to, or we just felt like this, "Eh," and I think that's because we were all shoved and told everybody else is so dangerous, right? "Don't touch, don't go, don't do anything, you'll die," right? Like, that was that. Everybody's gonna die. Everybody's gonna kill you. Like that it sounds terrible, and I suppose I should come with a little asterisk warning before I said it, but that's what we were taught, and now we're still coming back from it. It's been 5 years, quote, unquote, but, it's gonna take a long time, and it's something that we also have to give more grace to the younger generations because it's gonna take them even longer, and they don't have the same skills. So, you gotta get out, meet people, get out of your
A
comfort
lot
zone,
of
and
them
it's tough
don't have the experience at all.
at
They
all.
grew up with COVID. That is their experience. So yeah.
Well, they grew up here's what I've discovered and thought about a lot because I talk about generations as well, because heaven forbid I talk about one thing. Uh, they started with screens and in person, right? But it was smartphone screens and in person. So half the world was already in this little box, and then the other half was in person. And then it was entirely ripped away and only in this little box. So they didn't grow up like, even my generation still grew up without a smartphone and therefore had that in-person communication ability and experience. Whereas this new generation was already only getting about half of that as it is, and then it went 100% away. And now we're slowly bringing them back into it, and when they hit the workforce, it's just not the same. They don't have that same skills, they don't understand, they're just not there, their maturity levels are different at different ages, um, and so it's a real interesting thing that society as a whole needs to appreciate a little bit more, have some more sympathy towards, but also actively look for solutions on.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
just my
I
soapbox.
You and I talk a lot on the same topic, and one of the things that I was in a talk I do about younger generations, there was a study done and there was a survey done, and they surveyed these generations and they found that they valued technology more than freedom and more than air.
Ooh, ooh.
I could live without air, but I can't live without technology. Now that'll tell you. I mean, and I when I saw that, it's like, come on, that can't be true. And then I cross referenced it. It was true. Now this is going back
Oh,
about 5 7 years, but think about that. Technology is more important to them than freedom or air. And we grow up. I know my generation was freedom would be number one. I'll go without air if I can have freedom. But technology is everything to these younger generations.
that's all they know.
That's right.
You take it away from them, they're so crippled from it because, I mean, okay, so we went on spring break with my stepdaughter and her friend, and we drove down to the Panhandle, Seaside, 30A, very popular if you live
Yep.
in Georgia. And she was so amused and chatted with us about the Great Migration because she could see on Snapchat all the little people that popped up. And it was like so many people she knew were on 30A across, the few miles of 30, well, a lot more than few, but you know what I mean? Like there was a shit ton of them all down there, and the fact that she could see that and see their locations, I was like, "That is creepy, turn off your location right now. Nobody needs to be able to st" like, "What the heck?" Right? That was my first response because I don't know, I have an old soul. I don't know, I think it's weird. But I'm like, "Dang." To her, that's like giving life, right? Like, if I took that away from her, she wouldn't know how to function without being able to say, "Okay, my friend is here. Okay, oh, they're almost here, so I know how long." So even at cheer practice, right? I drop her off at cheer. She likes to see where her closest friend at cheer is. And I'm like, "Just walk inside." Like, "What are you doing?" I don't understand. "Oh, they'll be here in 3 more minutes." And I'm like, "That's so weird that
Yeah.
that's something that you know." Like, I know where my husband is at all times because I have his location on, but, like, just him. I only stalk him. I feel like
Yeah.
that's pretty normal.
I don't have any friends that
No,
I'm following. I've
and
got
the
a
only one
nephew
I
down in Florida who knows my location. I haven't turned that off, but I don't know why. But
we'll work on that. We can turn
yeah,
that off.
yeah.
I just think it's
Probably because I
fascinating.
don't know how to. You know.
Right. At least you're okay with that and
That's
knowing it.
right. I'm fine with
But
it.
that's very fascinating, technology over everything. But now that you've said it, my mind is like, "Yeah, and this and this and this and this," right?
Yeah.
That's scary. And AI is even more fascinating, I think. I mean, I think by AI is fascinating. I use
Oh
it
yeah,
all for
I do too.
all sorts.
I'm not all panicked about AI like a lot of people my age are, or even younger. But
Well, longer, I am worried for some because it is gonna take away jobs from these college programs that these kids have invested too much money into and are in debt over, which is a whole 'nother conversation about
that
how
could be a whole long conversation there, no doubt.
messed up that system is that I refuse to be a part of. So, but, man, it's one of those things to me, it's already here. You're not gonna get away from it. You're not gonna change it. So you might as well embrace it, which is also my same attitude towards, like, people are mad when younger generations use different words or it's here. You're not gonna change their minds and do something, so you might as well adapt and go with and learn and try to educate on the other side as well because you can't fight it. Or, okay, we don't have a Ring camera. I shouldn't probably say this out loud, but we're getting one. We don't have a front door camera, and my husband's in security, right? Like, he is in asset protection. He helps major corporation retailers protect their assets. We do not have a camera in my house. It's the classic example, right? But
Sure.
he doesn't like the concept of Amazon being linked to our front door, and I'm like, "It's too late." They already know everything that's
Exactly.
going on. So, you might as well just benefit from it. As much as it's questionable on ethics, it's too late. Like, you just gotta go with it. Anyways,
I agree.
I I'll stop with my soapboxes.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I agree. It's if you are not the one controlling it, then you're going to have to just eventually embrace it. It doesn't do any good to fight it.
You know what's interesting about AI and confidence? So I've been using it a lot lately to be my sounding board. So I have ideas. I'm like, are they any good? Would this be any good? And I use AI to either tweak or make me feel more confident to get that exterior validation that I would normally try to seek from wherever, whatever. And I think it's a really great tool to get your ideas, your thoughts validated because we all need that. We all crave that exterior validation. But it's not always good to put all your ideas and energy out there because if people don't understand, they'll get you a negative thought pattern in your mind, and that's gonna take you down the wrong path. But I think that's an interesting use of technology that I've identified.
That's brilliant.
Why
That's
not?
a great idea.
Instead of trying to put it out on the universe and somebody steal your idea, you can get validated by AI, or I use it like a template too. I love templates. I hate blank canvases. I'm not good. Don't give me a blank piece of paper and expect me to come up with something. It's gonna be weeks, months, maybe never. But I use it like a template, so I can, like, type in what I'm thinking, and then it'll format it for me, or give me some ideas to change it, and I think it's a really good way to utilize technology and build your confidence
I'm going
in.
to start to do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I promise you it'll help build your confidence on what you're doing because it's like, "Yeah, that's great," or, "It's good, but try this." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, AI." I need to name him. Have you named your AI? I
No, no, I haven't.
feel like it should be Bob.
I'm not real creative with names, and I just, when I go through the drive-through or whatever, I just say I'm Bob. Just Bob. It's easy.
Bob, Bob. My
So
name's
maybe
so
mine's
common,
going
I'm
to be
like,
Bob.
"It's good." If you can't spell Amanda at this point, I don't know. There's tons of us out there. It's very
Yeah,
simple.
there are.
You wanna know a funny story? And then we should probably close out.
Okay.
My grandfather, when he heard, my name, you'll appreciate this. He goes, "Why would you name her after a refrigerator?" Because he
So for those
thought
of
it
you who
was
don't know, there's a company out there. There was called Amana, not Amanda, Amana, and they made refrigerators and washers and dryers and all sorts of appliances.
Yes. And he was, I mean, he was born in, like, I don't know, like the 1900, like 1912 or something. Like he's quite a bit older than, my mom was the last of 6 and a mistake. So, he was quite a bit older. Why would you name her after a refrigerator?
That's
That's
that's funny.
classic Massachusetts zero filter.
Pretty much, yeah. I've got one working. Oddly enough, I've got a Bob working for me who is from Massachusetts, and he used to run the sewer department up there. And he's just kind of what it is what it is. There's not a whole
Yep.
lot of massaging it. So
Nope. Nope. We don't have much of a filter usually. That's where
yeah,
I get my in trouble in the South. I'm like, "Just this. I don't understand what the problem is."
yeah.
And people are like, I'm like, you don't sugarcoat my world."
It's
I
a
think
lot
that's
quicker.
it's a lot quicker,
Yeah.
and you don't get your feelings hurt nearly as much when it just is what it is. But Glenn, I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It's a lot of
We
fun.
chatted for a while, longer than I
Yeah.
anticipated. I have a tendency of doing that, but that's okay. And I hope that you found this valuable. Do you have any final words of wisdom? And could you tell the people where to find you if they're interested in connecting with you?
Sure. I mean, I'm on virtually any social media platform as either Glen Gould with one N, GlenGould, or speaker Glen Gould. But the easiest thing is I have a website, glengould.com. And I was lucky enough to get that one after many, many years of fighting the actor and the comic and the Chinese who just wanted to pin it down. Finally snuck in there and got it. So
Did it cost you an arm and a leg?
didn't cost me anything. I'm one of those people that I'll look it up and I'll say, so I looked it up, and every year on the anniversary date, I would go check it and see if it was available. And so I'm, just the day that it is, supposed to be renewed, if it wasn't renewed, it's mine. So,
That's awesome.
and I did
So
that
my
for 12 years. I had
Whoa.
glengould.net forever, but it took me 12 years to get .com.
Wow. So my video production company is .io, blueplate.io,
Yep.
because blueplate.com was $76,000.
Is that all? And you didn't
You know,
have it?
I just didn't feel like it was that important to buy .com at this point.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I agree
but
with you. I agree with
yeah,
you.
but that's interesting. You just snatched it up for a deal. It's a
There you
win.
go. Got lucky.
GlenGould.com will be linked below. Glenn, thanks for coming on. I hope you have
Thank you,
a
Amanda.
wonderful rest of your day today. And to all of
Good.
you wonderful people out there, if this was helpful for you, you liked it, leave us a comment, let us know. And of course, please share it out. We would love for more people to get to benefit because that's our that's our passion project is helping others in any way that we can. Have a beautiful day and thanks for listening to Yes You May with Amanda Mae Gray.